Dock Ellis's LSD no-hitter. It's baseball's most chemically enhanced masterpiece. On June 12, 1970, Dock Ellis pitched a no-hitter while high on LSD. Not might have been, not urban legend, he admitted it, recounted it in interviews, and wore it like a chaotic badge of honor. Ellis said he thought the game was the next day. He dropped acid in Los Angeles, spent the morning partying, then found out he was supposed to pitch in San Diego. Somehow, he made it to the mound. What followed wasn't just improbable, it was surrealist sport. He couldn't see the batter clearly. He said he felt the ball morph in size. The catcher wore glowing signs. And through it all, Dock somehow navigated 9 hitless innings. He walked 8, hit a batter, and claimed he was guided more by cosmic vibes than actual control. It wasn't pretty, but it was effective. The Pirates won, the box score confirmed it, and baseball added a new chapter to its weirdest lore. Ellis later cleaned up his life and used his story to help others battling addiction. But the legacy of that game remains unshakably strange. A no-hitter thrown by a man who couldn't see straight, couldn't feel his fingers, and didn't even believe the game was real. Parachuting fan at the World Series. Game 6 of the 1986 World Series was already madness. Then it got airborne. In the middle of one of the most tension-packed games in baseball history, a man in a parachute suddenly floated into Shea Stadium like a lost skydiver at a suburban birthday party. Mid-inning, national television, thousands of stunned fans, no warning. Just a man in a jumpsuit casually landing in center field like he'd been invited. The game stopped, security scrambled. The umpires looked like they just witnessed a UFO sighting. And the fans, they went nuts. The parachuter, later identified as a serial stunt guy named Michael Sergio, was quickly escorted out, but not before imprinting himself onto one of baseball's most chaotic chapters. You had Bill Buckner's infamous error, a Mets comeback for the ages, and sandwiched in the middle of all that, a flying man interrupting play like a deleted scene from Airplane. The league never quite knew what to do with the footage. They hoped people would forget. But how do you forget a guy who literally drops into a World Series game from the sky? It was a moment that proved in baseball, even gravity occasionally goes rogue. Eddie Gaedel's plate appearance. On August 19, 1951, the St. Louis Browns sent a 3'7" man to the plate. Not metaphorically, literally. Eddie Gaedel, wearing jersey number 1/8, stepped into the batter's box for one of the most bizarre and unforgettable at-bats in baseball history. Owner Bill Veeck orchestrated the stunt as a publicity gag, submitting Gaedel's contract through legal channels the night before. Nobody knew what was coming until Gaedel popped out of a giant papier-mâché cake between games of a doubleheader, walked to the plate, and crouched like a question mark. His strike zone, roughly the size of a shoebox. Tigers pitcher Bob Kane laughed through the at-bat and walked him on 4 straight pitches. The crowd exploded. Gaedel tipped his cap and was immediately replaced by a pinch runner. No swing, no contact. Just one perfectly executed, league-embarrassing stunt. The American League voided the contract the next day, and Commissioner Ford Frick called it a mockery. But Gaedel's name never left baseball lore. It was a moment of pure absurdity, a literal sideshow act squeezed into the formal dress code of professional sports. One pitch walk, one game career, one towering myth born from a man too small to strike out. Randy Johnson kills a bird. Spring training 2001. Randy Johnson, 6'10" and already a myth, was warming up with the Diamondbacks when he threw a fastball that murdered a dove in midair. No hyperbole. He launched a 95-mile-per-hour heater, and a bird, flying in from the third base side, intersected it perfectly at the plate. Feathers exploded. The bird vaporized on contact. The crowd gasped, the catcher froze, and Johnson stood on the mound like he'd just seen a ghost. Technically, the pitch was ruled no pitch, but spiritually, it was a death blow from the baseball gods. Johnson wasn't trying to hit anything but the strike zone, but the timing was cosmic. That bird had to cross the path of the single most intimidating pitcher in baseball history at the exact wrong moment. And somehow it got weirder. PETA got involved. Jokes spiraled, and for the rest of his career, Randy Johnson, the big unit, was known not only for demolishing hitters, but for sniping wildlife out of the sky with baseballs. He didn't want the moment to define him. Too late. One pitch, one bird, one spontaneous nature documentary nobody asked for. The Cleveland Bug Game. October 5th, 2007. Game 2 of the American League Division Series between the Yankees and Indians. Joba Chamberlain took the mound in the 8th with the Yankees clinging to a lead and got swarmed. Literally. A thick cloud of midges, tiny flying insects straight out of a biblical plague, descended on Progressive Field. The lights made them worse. The humidity made them stick. And Joba, he couldn't escape. His neck, ears, eyes covered. He tried swatting them away between pitches, tried wiping his face with his jersey. Nothing worked. Trainers brought out bug spray that smelled like motor oil. Didn't matter. The bugs stayed, and they unraveled him. Joba threw 2 wild pitches, walked a batter, gave up the tying run, and watched his playoff debut melt into a punchline. The Yankees lost in extras, and the series turned from high stakes to horror comedy. The midges were never officially blamed, but everyone knew. They were the unexpected MVPs of the night. And unlike rally towels or fan chants, you can't coach for insects. Nature took over. The game became chaos. And for one very specific inning, the MLB postseason belonged not to hitters or pitchers, but to bugs. Welcome to baseball, where even the bugs can earn a postseason highlight reel. Vince Coleman versus the Tarp. The 1985 NLCS was already tense. Then the Tarp attacked. Before Game 4 in St. Louis, Cardinals speedster Vince Coleman was doing pre-game stretches near the dugout when the stadium's automatic tarp machine kicked into action. Coleman didn't see it coming. A 1,200-pound death sheet of canvas rolled over his leg like a stealth Zamboni. The result? A severely bruised knee, a trip to the hospital, and a benching for the rest of the series. Not a bad pitch, not a pulled hammy. He got injured by stadium equipment. The Cardinals downplayed it, but inside the clubhouse, players were stunned. The fastest man in baseball had just been taken out by a glorified picnic blanket. There was no backup plan for tarp-based trauma, no rulebook entry for crushed by mechanical fabric. Just an all-time bizarre injury that derailed a key postseason weapon. St. Louis still made it to the World Series, but they lost in 7 games. Coleman never got to play a single inning in that fall classic. To this day, it's one of the strangest injuries in MLB history. Not turf toe, not rotator cuff, just man versus tarp, and the tarp won. If you're vibing with the video, hit that like button and maybe even subscribe for more. We're gonna be posting a lot here. No pressure, but it helps a ton. Morgana the Kissing Bandit. For over 2 decades, one woman hijacked MLB games without ever swinging a bat. Morgana Roberts, better known as Morgana the Kissing Bandit, became a national sensation by doing one thing: sprinting onto the field mid-game and planting kisses on the game's biggest stars. George Brett, Pete Rose, Cal Ripken Jr., Nolan Ryan, no one was safe. She'd leap from the stands, boobs bouncing like a cartoon physics experiment, dodge security, and deliver a kiss like it was part of the 7th inning stretch. The fans loved it. The players. Mixed reviews. Some laughed, some looked stunned, a few looked way too comfortable. Morgana said she did it all out of love for the game. But make no mistake, it was pure performance. She built a career off the stunt, landing on talk shows, commercials, even featured in Sports Illustrated. MLB, for its part, never officially embraced her, but didn't exactly ban her either. Maybe they couldn't figure out how. It was the 70s and 80s, and security was barely better than mall cops. Morgana never hurt anyone, never stayed long, and always knew her moment. She wasn't streaking, she was show stealing. The Bandit made kissing a sport, and MLB let it happen, again and again. Jeffrey Meyer's home run grab. October 9th, 1996. ALCS Game 1. Bottom of the 8th, Derek Jeter hits a deep fly to right. Orioles outfielder Tony Tarasco drifts back, camps under it, and then it's gone. Not over the wall, just out of reach. Because a 12-year-old kid named Jeffrey Meyer reached over the fence and snagged it with his glove. A clear case of fan interference. Except the umpires didn't call it that. They ruled it a home run. The Yankees tied the game. They eventually won in extras. And a child with braces became an instant part of postseason history. Tarasco lost his mind. Orioles manager Davey Johnson stormed the field. But the call stood, and the replay era was still years away. So the Yankees got their homer, Meyer got a high-five parade, and Baltimore got a stomach ulcer. The league later admitted the call was wrong. Too late. That one reach changed the game, and maybe the series. The Yankees went on to win the ALCS, then the World Series. Meyer went on to college ball and minor fame. The glove? Probably on eBay. The damage? Permanent. In one move, a middle schooler outmaneuvered an MLB outfielder and rewrote a playoff game with a souvenir. The Black Sox and Pete Rose. Two gambling scandals, 70 years apart, both so radioactive MLB still wears the scars. First came the 1919 Black Sox. 8 White Sox players, shoeless Joe Jackson among them, conspired with gamblers to throw the World Series. They were promised payouts larger than their actual salaries. Some followed through, others backed out, but the damage was done. In 1921, all 8 were banned for life, even shoeless Joe, who hit .375 in the series. MLB appointed its first commissioner, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, solely to prevent it from ever happening again. Spoiler, it didn't work. In 1989, Pete Rose, the game's all-time hit leader, was caught betting on games while managing the Reds. He denied it for years, then admitted it, then tried to spin it. He said he never bet against his team, as if that softened the blow. It didn't. MLB banned him indefinitely. No Hall of Fame, no reinstatement. Just permanent exile. Fans still argue about it, but the league doesn't. Gambling is the third rail, and Rose touched it. Twice. These scandals weren't quirky or weird. They were existential. When your sport is built on trust, a fixed game is a wrecking ball. And MLB still tiptoes around the wreckage. If you're vibing with these wild stories MLB's still kinda ghosting, then smash that like and hit subscribe. Luis Ortiz and the Gambling Probe. July 2025. Cleveland Guardians pitcher Luis Ortiz is placed on administrative leave. Not for injury, not for PEDs, but for gambling. Specifically, an investigation into suspicious prop bets linked to games he pitched. The league isn't saying much. That's part of the weird. Ortiz hasn't been charged, hasn't been suspended, but he's not allowed to play either. Just in limbo. The bets reportedly weren't on outcomes, no win-loss manipulation, but they were oddly specific. First inning walks, number of pitches. Unusual betting patterns emerged around specific pitches he threw, like first inning walks or the number of pitches. Someone noticed. Now the MLB is quietly spiraling. It's the kind of scandal the league thought it outgrew. But with legalized sports betting now baked into the broadcast, complete with in-game odds, pitch-by-pitch promos, and studio analysts talking spreads, MLB's worst nightmare is suddenly back in HD. Ortiz might end up innocent, but the optics are already cooked. Fans don't forget stuff like this. Neither do commissioners. The investigation's been extended through August. No charges yet. No answers either. Just whispers. And in the silence, MLB is sweating. Because nothing kills trust faster than suspicion, especially when it's coming from inside the dugout. If Ortiz gets cleared, the damage still lingers. If he doesn't, buckle up. The ghost of Pete Rose just bought season tickets. Baseball loves its traditions. It loves its stats, its records, its sacred moments frozen in grainy footage and Cooperstown glass. But underneath all that reverence lives something stranger. Pure chaos. These stories, some funny, some tragic, some just flat out unhinged, aren't footnotes. They're the pulse. A no-hitter on acid, a bird turned to mist, a child shifting the balance of a postseason. Baseball tries to scrub these moments from memory to frame itself as clean and timeless. But the weird stuff, that's what sticks. That's what fans whisper about when the game slows down. Because this sport, for all its structure and history, is constantly one pitch away from total absurdity. It can't help itself. Whether it's the tarp eating a base stealer, a kissing bandit interrupting a shutout, or a pitcher being sidelined for betting on himself, baseball keeps delivering moments that no marketing campaign could ever script. And that's the real magic. The league prays you forget. But deep down, it knows you won't. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.